wallet plugin sites do Dragon Ninja for cat. Yeah, DragonNinja.com is a site run by a cat. It's a really clever cat who can speak and do websites. It's our kind of like fan site, but it's not really. I wouldn't like to say fan site because that's quite patronising.
No, because it's a lot better than our own site.
No, it's not.
Okay.
With 10 months to create their second statement to the world, Lostprophets had plenty of time to think carefully about what they were doing. They could monitor trends in the industry and do their utmost to make sure that their record was as accurate as possible in showing a picture of who they were and what they could do. It is true that the right kind of production and relentless marketing strategies can give a mediocre band a short life in the sun, despite unpromising long-term prospects. But there is little that can be done to stop a band with intelligence, wit and good songs from getting an even chance of making it on their own terms. Lostprophets had shown that they had all these qualities, and with luck, the right amount of support from their management, and with the might of Sony behind them, time should show them to be unstoppable. Much of 2003 was spent working in Los Angeles, with producer Eric Valentine taking the greatest care to make sure that the new album would be as good as it could get. There would be several departures from both their own previous methods of working and from the lyrical and musical concerns of many of their contemporaries. The massively increased budget that was lavished on these new recordings, compared to the £4,000 spent on their debut, meant that they could afford, for instance, real orchestral strings to add weight to their sound. The first single for the album, Burn Burn, was released on November 3rd, 2003, and went to number 17 in the British chart. Not bad for a band who the press were waiting to shoot down in flames, as is the tradition in Britain. Here, success is sought with manic fervour by anyone old and intelligent enough to crawl. As soon as they achieve the mythical status, they're slapped back down again. The lyrical subject matter of the album's second single, Last Train Home, was a call to be happy with whatever situation you were in, rather than wallow in self-pity and bogus angst, as much of the output of bands like Radiohead and Coldplay seem to want the listener to do. Or, if not wallow in their own sea of troubles, then at least spare a sympathetic ear for the poor millionaire songsmith whose life just won't seem to give him the jollies he so desperately craves. Lostprophets would proclaim themselves in interviews to be too down-to-earth to fall for their own media-generated myths. They are essentially 6 very good friends who have found themselves more successful than they had ever dreamed was possible. Their tight bonds as people keep them reminded of what is actually going on in their lives. If, in the future, they fall for all the hype that will inevitably be written about them, then things may change. The media always prefer myths to the mundane truth, and the truth about Lostprophets is that they are as amazed at their success as anyone, and are still basically 6 guys out to have fun. At the same time, they're gobsmacked at finding themselves being a top-selling British band, fetching up in places like Las Vegas or Los Angeles, which probably seemed, just 2 years ago, as unlikely as finding themselves falling off the planet, or perhaps more so. In an interview, Ian Watkins declared that Lostprophets were one of the first British bands, if not the only, to be doing what they were doing. This might have been a problem for all sorts of reasons. In America, kids could choose from the top nu metal bands in the world. They had no need to import a nu metal band from a place like Wales. And in Britain, American music was often seen to be manufactured and marketed with little thought for originality or long-term strategy. Bands were not nurtured and guaranteed long-term careers. They were to be exploited while the going was good and dumped when the industry had taken what it wanted. Then it was on to the next thing. The perception on both sides of the Atlantic was that Lostprophets had spent 3 years touring an album that was now beginning to seem a little naive and out of its time. 3 years is a long time in pop music, and during that time the landscape had altered dramatically. As always, most of the big moves were made in black music. Outkast had risen from their cult status as the Dirty South's most promising hip-hop act to become set to then rule the world with their quirky brand of melodic pop. It was no longer necessary to come on like an insecure neighbourhood gang leader promising to blow away any sucker who crossed your path. You could sing about love and admit having a sense of humour, and it was all okay. Artists like Keyless had taken an avant-garde approach to chart music and had scored an impressive hit with her impressionistic tune Milkshake, and Pharrell Williams' hip-hop outfit Nerd were informing a new generation of fans who were comfortable with a hybrid of rock and black music. The message all over seemed to be that it was acceptable again to make this kind of music with live instruments. The sampler was no longer king. This should have been good news for bands like Lostprophets, who were very much an authentic rock band, with all the strengths and limitations that implies. It remained to be seen whether or not the world was sufficiently impressed with the steps they would next take.